Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us this morning to our local buy supplier refresher session, which is actually quite difficult to say. So welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'd like to make some introductions before we kick off and do a little bit of housekeeping as well. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please can you pop them not in the chat, but in the Q&A portal, which is on your top toolbar of Teams. So just at the top there, it says open Q&A and you can post your questions in there. We will be doing a live Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Now, without further ado, let's meet the members of our team. Now, we have been abandoned by a couple of them. So Josh is not here with us this morning, but you do have me. My name is Emma Peters and I'm the Head of Engagement for Local Buy. We are also joined by Erin. Now, Erin has a little bit of Thank you, Erin. Erin has a little bit of a cold this morning, so she ducks off the camera. She's gone off to blow her nose, but she is being a trooper and joining us this morning. And Erin works alongside Sarah in the finance and compliance team.
Hi.
And we're also joined by Sarah. Now, Sarah is going to be jumping into the system and showing us some live demonstrations of vendor panel and also the local buy reporting portal. So don't forget, if you do have any questions at all, please pop them in the Q&A. This session is being recorded and it will be sent out to you with a copy of the slides after the presentation has finished. So you don't need to scribble lots and lots of notes today. We're going to go through to start with, before we dive into vendor panel and the reporting portal, a little bit about Local Buy. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of the Local Government Association of Queensland, also known as the LGAQ. We do love an acronym in local government land. We were created way back in 2001 to assist councils streamline procurement. That means Local Buy is going to be turning 25 years old next year. We're a profit for purpose organisation, and we return any profit that we make over and above our operating costs to our owner, the LGAQ, who use those funds to provide member services to all 77 Queensland councils that are members of the LGAQ. And we also work really closely with the Local Government Association of the Northern Territory, known as LGANT, to provide procurement solutions for Northern Territory councils. Now, let's have a little chat about why councils need assistance with procurement. So I bet you didn't think you were going to get a lecture in the local government regulation today, but you are going to have just that. So here in Queensland, when councils go out to buy goods and services on behalf of their council, they can't just go and do it. They have to abide by actually two pieces of legislation. The first one is the Local Government Regulation 2012. And this is the default contracting procedure. So if council are going out to buy goods and services that their expected value is between 15,000 and 200,000, they must obtain 3 written quotes. If they're going to be entering into what the local government regulation considers to be a large size contractual arrangement over $200,000, they must perform a full and open market tender. Now, please note that these thresholds are accumulative for the life of a contract or a financial year with a supplier for similar goods or services. So council can't split up their orders into smaller chunks to get around the legislation. It doesn't work like that. It is accumulative. We're also going to take a very quick look at the Northern Territory thresholds, because we have some Northern Territory based suppliers here in the webinar who may be doing business with Northern Territory based councils. Now, the Northern Territory thresholds are slightly lower than those here in Queensland. It's still called the Local Government Regulation, and that tendering threshold kicks in at $150,000 rather than $200,000 here in Queensland. So remember, large size contract requires tendering. Now, tendering is a very time-consuming process. It's long, it's arduous. The tenders have to be open for a full 21 days. So council can't buy anything quickly if they need to do that through a full and open tender process. There's lots of preparation to do in terms of the tender documentation, and the council has to evaluate every single tender that comes in for that particular tender. There is a risk for local governments that the preferred tenderer could come from outside their council area. And councils are dedicated to and required to make sure that they're fostering local competitive business within their local government area. We have estimated that it can cost council up to $20,000 to run through that entire tender process, and up to $5,000 for suppliers to respond to, with no guarantee that they are going to win that work. So where does local buy fit into all of this? Well, local buy has an exception written into the local government regulation in Queensland and an exemption in the Northern Territory that says that councils and local and government authorities can purchase goods and services over that $200,000 threshold without having to do tenders. They may still, however, wish to do a request for quote process to make sure that they're getting good value for money for that particular process, but they do not need to run a full and open market tender if they are engaging suppliers through a local buy pre-qualified supplier arrangement, of which we have over 50 in a range of goods and services that council use on a regular basis to procure. Now, whilst local buy was set up in 2001 by the LGAQ to assist local government in Queensland to streamline procurement, lots of other entities have decided that local buy is a good thing, which we certainly think it is. We might be a bit biased, and started jumping on board and utilising the local buy pre-qualified supply arrangements for their own procurement. And they include all 77 councils in Queensland and the majority of the councils in the Northern Territory, but also Queensland state and federal government departments, government-owned corporations, water authorities, port authorities, even charities and not-for-profit entities can access local buy for procurement if they would like to do so. Because all of the suppliers on the local buy pre-qualified supply arrangements have been just that, robustly pre-qualified to make sure that they can provide the goods and services that they say they can, and they are compliant in terms of having the correct levels of insurances to do those works or provide those services. And lots of educational organisations, schools and universities utilise local buy for procurement too. Little snapshot here of some figures over the last few years. As you can see, from 2020 to 2025, local buy is growing. The use of local buy is very much growing. In fact, last financial year, over $1 billion of spend went through local buy's pre-qualified supply arrangements. We have 400, Erin gave me an update on this figure. We have 4,889 pre-qualified local buy suppliers, which is excellent to see. And 61% of all of that spend goes through vendor panel. Vendor panel is very, very important, and we are going to talk about that. Sarah's going to give you a live demonstration of vendor panel, just so you are completely aware of where vendor panel fits into the local buy story. It's very, very important. If you're a local buy supplier, you need to be across vendor panel. So I'm going to hand over to Sarah in just a moment, but I'm going to cover off this vendor panel slide first, and then I'm going to pass across to Sarah. So if you are the primary contact, that's like the main person in vendor panel, you are responsible for all the vendor panel stuff that needs to happen. So you need to make sure that you've uploaded your company logo, and Sarah's going to give us a demonstration of where you can do that in vendor panel in a moment. Now, the second dot point on this slide, I am going to talk about in a little bit of detail because it's really, really important. So you need to add colleagues to the system. So unless you are a sole trader and it's just you working in your business, then you won't need to do that because it's just you. But many organisations have multiple staff members that could be alerted of requests for quote when they come through vendor panel. And at this juncture, I think it's really important to cover that those requests for quote for you as a local buy supplier, that's a business opportunity. Now, not every single one of them may be in your wheelhouse, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but each one of those is a potential business opportunity. If you are the only person in vendor panel, you're the primary contact, and you have no colleagues and you are away on annual leave, you may miss a really important business opportunity. Now, another thing that you need to note down if you are writing some really important notes is this. Vendor panel will send you an email when you get a request for quotes sent to you from a local buyer. It will come from no reply at vendorpanel.com.au. Please make sure that no reply at vendorpanel.com.au is in your safe senders list. Otherwise, you will not get any alerts from vendor panel and you could miss out on business opportunities. There is another really great reason for you to add colleagues into vendor panel against your business profile. As I said before, we work very closely with Northern Territory Local Government Association of the Northern Territory and Northern Territory councils, and they want to be engaging with suppliers who have a physical location in the Northern Territory. So if you do have branches or offices, not just in where your head office is, it's really important to add colleagues in all of those locations that you have. So if councils are doing a geographical search within vendor panel, it will show that you have human beings working in their local government area. It's very important that your business profile is accurate and up to date. One of my colleagues, Audrey, always likes to say that vendor panel is your shop window almost. So if a council is looking to engage you and they don't know anything about your business, that vendor panel profile should contain all the information that they need to know. Please be expansive. It gives you plenty of room to put a good description of your business. I have seen some suppliers that have got 2 words, civil construction. There's lots more room for you to put lots more information in there about your business, how long you've been trading, what you specialize in, where you've worked. You know, you can even mention other council projects that you have worked on. You need to make sure your insurances are kept up to date and current so you are compliant, and Sarah is going to cover off on that in just a moment, and that your pricing or rate cards are also current. Not every single arrangement has pricing attached to it, but some do. And if you need to have a rate card on there, please make sure it's up to date. I have noticed some suppliers have not updated their rate cards for several years, and I'm pretty sure pricing has gone up in the last couple of years. So make sure that you're reviewing your rate cards and making sure that they're current. Now, I am going to go across to Sarah and she's going to run you through a few slides before she jumps into the system. And Sarah, you're going to take control at the top toolbar from me so you can turn your own slides if that's okay. Now, before Sarah kicks off, just a quick reminder for anybody that came in late. This session is being recorded. You will get a copy of the recording and the slides, and if you've got any questions, post them in the Q&A portal up the top. Sarah, I'm going to shut up and it's over to you.
Okie doke. So first thing we're going to look at is updating your compliances. So these are stored in the vendor panel system. Each local buy arrangement comes with its minimum insurance coverage that's required. These are laid out in Schedule A of the GCCs, your general conditions of contract. It's also, you'll see when we run through the example, it also shows on vendor panel when you're going to update your insurance item. It shows the minimum in a little bubble there as well, just to remind you what you need to have.
Sarah, I'm going to interject occasionally.
Love that.
That's okay, because it's my favourite thing to do, as you know. Erin's laughing because it totally is. Where would a supplier find the general conditions of contract, please?
In a couple of different places. So you would have received a copy of the general conditions of contract when you completed the tender, and they are also linked to each of the arrangements on vendor panel. And when we do the run through, I can show you where they sit as well. Just going to check I can actually see where they sit from this view. Yes, I should be able to show you where they are as well. Right, rate cards and pricing. So some local buy arrangements require a price schedule to be completed at the point of tendering. This, once appointed, will then download and attach that to your vendor panel profile. We also have rate cards in the vendor panel system, which is a very similar setup. It's just done within the vendor panel system itself, and we'll run through that. Some of our contracts don't have pricing schedules or rate cards at all. It does vary on an arrangement by arrangement basis. If you've seen a rate card and a pricing schedule and you know what I'm talking about, that means your arrangement has it. If you haven't seen them, I wouldn't stress too much. It just, depending on what it is that you provide, we may not actually require it. Pricing can be updated on a quarterly basis. And all of this information is also included in your general conditions of contract and the specification as well. Right, the supplier profile. So ensuring that you keep your supplier profile up to date, as Emma mentioned earlier, this is your chance to give a little bit of a blurb about what you do, who you are, how you do it, and has all the relevant information that a buyer will need to be able to contact you. So keeping that up to date is very, very important. Any changes to your ABN or primary contact, we need to know about, the ABN especially, because that triggers a whole bunch of other things that we may need to do in the background to ensure that we're on contract with the right entity. And having the primary contact up to date is really important because they're in charge of keeping your profile up to date. So if your compliances expire, if your pricing needs to be updated, these are all things that can only be done by the primary contact. And just a little thing to keep in mind, updating the primary contact on vendor panel doesn't automatically update the primary contact on the supplier portal and vice versa. You can update them in those areas, but we also need you to let us know if your primary contact on your supplier portal needs to be the same as the vendor panel and vice versa, so we can make sure we've got all the right details in all the right areas.
And Sarah, what's the best way for suppliers if they need to make updates to either or their reporting contact or their primary contact within vendor panel? How should they do that?
So if you have access to the supplier portal through a support ticket, and we can run you through that process when we run through the supplier portal. If you're new to the organization and realize you don't have access to any of these systems, then by emailing the contracts@localbuy.net.au email, and we will get all of that set up for you. All right, so we've got our supplier portal. Once again, completely different system to vendor panel. This is where you complete your monthly reporting. In here, you can also access supply details. So you can see your account details, your address, any contacts that are linked to your account, and the roles that they play within your contract with LocalBuy. Any awarded work. Now, I must add a little disclaimer here. The awarded work is wholly and solely work that has been awarded through the vendor panel platform. This is only a snapshot of the work that you may have completed for councils if they have contacted you directly by a phone call or email. We only show in the system the work awarded through the vendor panel system. We've got your arrangement details, so that shows each of the arrangements and categories that you're currently appointed to. It will also show you if there's any outstanding or critical tasks that you need to complete. So if your compliances have expired in vendor panel, it will show here in the outstanding tasks. If you have any debts with LocalBuy, invoices that have been unpaid for over 60 to 90 days, they will show here as an outstanding debt, and it will also show any pricing or rate card updates that need to be done as well. You can see your past reports. So while the main home screen is your current reporting period details, once you've submitted that report, you can actually then go into the past reports and view your data from previous returns. And we have our support tab as well, which is where you can contact LocalBuy if you have any issues or any questions. Sorry, I lost my mouse for a second there. All right, so your supplier reporting. So reporting is due on the 21st of each month, and we always collect reporting in arrears. So we are currently 2nd of December today. A lot of you will have received an email letting you know that your next reporting period is available. That is the November reporting period we are collecting for. So any invoices that you have issued to purchases that was work for a local buy that was awarded through the local buy arrangement, these need to be reported now. You must report the accumulative total of all invoices, the ex-GST amount. So you can choose to either if you have multiple projects for the one purchaser, you can break that report down into each individual project if you wish, or you can just report the one amount for the month for that particular purchaser. We do have additional fields in there, which we'll go through when we run through the demo, where you can put in projects and identifying project information, whether it's the project name, number, the vendor panel reference number if you've got it. So you can split it out that way as well to provide some additional info. Big one, if you have not had any work invoiced for that month, we do still require you to complete a nil return. It's a very simple process. You log in, you tick a box, you press submit, Bob's your uncle, we will leave you alone until the next month. If you do require any assistance with your reporting, please contact finance@localbuy.net.au. You will receive an email back from either myself, Erin, or Joe. This can be anything as simple as not being able to access the portal. It can be if you've had to issue a credit to a purchaser, that actually can't be entered into the portal as a negative balance. You need to come contact us to let us know and we can do it for you at this end. Or if you've just got a random, I'm not sure if this needs to be reported, we can have a look into that for you as well. As well as a link in the email that you receive about monthly reporting, the portal can also be found via the Local Buy homepage. So when you if you were to Google Local Buy, jump on the Local Buy website, up in the top corner, you'll see a supplier portal button. That takes you to the reporting portal. It doesn't take you to Vendor Panel. It doesn't take you to 360, our tendering software. It will take you here to the reporting portal. Oh, all right. I'm going to share my screen with you guys now, and we're going to run through a little bit of a demo through Vendor Panel and the reporting portal. I see, Emma, looks like you were itching to say something then.
I was. While you're going to do that, so I think I'll take control and stop sharing. Let's just. Ooh, can you share your screen, Sarah, from there?
I've still got the share button. Let me have a look.
There we go.
Can everybody see Vendor Panel?
Yes, I can see it. I was just going to do a little synopsis while you were getting into that about the 3 different systems that suppliers need to be aware of, just so, because I get it, it's a bit confusing, which things and which systems do what. We would also love if all the systems talk to one another, but sadly they do not, do they, Sarah? So you have the APET 360 tendering portal. If you are already a local buy pre-qualified supplier, you will have used that particular portal. So that's for when you're tendering to become a local buy pre-qualified supplier. Then Vendor Panel is where you have all of your insurance documents and you get requests for quote from councils. They come through Vendor Panel. And then the local buy supplier portal, the reporting portal, is a separate system again. And apart from APET 360, Sarah is going to show you all the good stuff in Vendor Panel and the supplier portal right now.
All right, so I am in Vendor Panel. I've jumped on. I've invited myself to a panel this morning, an arrangement, so that I can run through a live demo. This is very much the live system, so I'm going to try not to break anything. So when you log into Vendor Panel, this is obviously your home screen. There's a whole bunch of open public tenders here. These won't necessarily be local buy tenders. This is just anything that's currently sitting in the Vendor Panel marketplace. So one of the things we're going to have a look at is the supplier lists you manage. So that is very important. So what it will show here, if you are the administrator for your organization and you are on a more than one local buy arrangement, plus you've also got your system set up to get some Vendor Panel marketplace notifications, all of this will show here on the supplier lists you manage. It will show your local buy arrangements, any that you are on, and then it will sit down here as vendor panel marketplace. For the purpose of today, we're going to have a look at local buy and just the asset management LB347 arrangement, because that is what I have appointed myself to. Across here, you will see there's a little red question mark, and it says here that local buy has not been approved by the list administrator. So what this means...
Sarah, can you zoom in a little bit, please? Because it's quite wee on the screen.
Let me have a look. That's a bit better.
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you.
Bear with me. I think I'll have to do that for every page as we go in. So you can see here it has local buy has not been approved by the list administrator. What that means is I've been invited to the arrangement, but I haven't been approved or made active on the arrangement as yet because I have some required information here that I need to update.
And until Sarah updates that, we will not turn you on, or we won't turn Sarah on, and that means that the local buy customers will not be able to find you under that particular arrangement. And this is why the compliance documentation is so important.
So across here we see I've got our logo, which is just the local buy logo. It gives you the option you can update and change your logo as necessary. I haven't added any colleagues yet, but it's a very simple process to do. I'm going to add Emma. So as the administrator, I have the power to add all of this information in. So I'm going to invite Emma to join my list here on LB347. If you're the administrator and you are on multiple local buy arrangements, just because I've invited Emma to LB347 does not mean I need her to be on any other arrangements I might be appointed to. She might be my asset management specialist, and I may be on a financial and business consulting arrangement where Erin's my specialist. So you can invite various colleagues to various arrangements. It's not a one in all in situation. I'm just going to go back here, supplier list you manage. All right, so I've added some colleagues, I've popped my logo in. When you receive your initial invite, it gives you the option to fill in your business description. So full disclosure, I just ran a little bit of a generic Copilot, write me a procurement business description, and I've popped that in there. I've obviously got my business name and my verified business entity. So this one is very important for people to be aware. The business name is what people will search for you as. So if you have your official business entity name is something completely different to your trading name, but your trading name is not registered, the vendor panel system won't allow you to have a different business name. It needs to be a registered business name under that legal entity. So if I was to have local buy not as a registered trading name, when I go to set up my profile, it would have the trustee for Local Buy Trading Trust, and then the business name would be the trustee for Local Buy Trading Trust. So that is something to keep in mind, because a lot of the time buyers know you as your trading name, but if it's not a registered trading name, it can't be set up with your vendor panel profile. So we do get that quite a lot of people looking for a supplier who is on the arrangement, but they're set up under their trust or a completely different legal entity and the trading name isn't showing up.
And Sarah, that's not a local buy or vendor panel decision. It was a change that ASIC made, and
we just had to live with it.
We just had to live with it. But we do have a little email recommending if people want to get that updated, so their business name is actually able to be shown in vendor panel. It is a process that you can go through with ASIC. So if that's something that you are under a trust and it's showing as a trust at the moment, you want to rectify, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
So as we can see here, I am the primary contact. I've got my primary phone number of employees. I haven't popped in the website or fax number information for this example. And down here, you will see my other contacts and colleagues. So that is currently sitting as none because Emma very rudely has not accepted my invitation as yet. And down here, you will see my current compliances. So it is saying that I'm not yet compliant for professional indemnity, public liability, and workers' compensation insurance. So once I'm active and approved, this is what, if local buy were to approve me before I'd updated my compliance items, this is what would be visible to buyers. Right, so we're going to go in and we're going to update some compliances. So in here, it tells me my required details. I have professional indemnity insurance, if I hit the little bubble, it will tell me what the minimum requirement is for this arrangement. So professional indemnity, it is 2 million per claimant in the annual aggregate. Public liability is 20 million, and work cover, it just must be held. Obviously, there is an exemption to that with sole directors and traders that don't have other employees and aren't required to have workers' compensation. In that situation, we do ask that you upload a letter on your company letterhead signed, just explaining why you don't have it. All right, so we're going to click here to create a new compliance item. Oh, it is actually working for me today. So I have done, sorry, I do apologize. I just need to find the window. So I have jumped in earlier and I've filled in all the bits and pieces so that you guys don't have to sit here and watch me type. So we're going to do professional indemnity. This, what insurance type it is locked. So because I've clicked on that, you can't then chop and change and go, oh no, I actually want to do my public liability right now. You've got to go back and start again. So I have created a little insurance document here. Thank you to the wonderful supplier who had a very easy compliance certificate to copy, and I've just blocked out their details. So we've got the policy number, the date that it was issued. It shows that it's a professional indemnity certificate of currency. It has a period of insurance. So this is your expiry date. We've got our limit and then our aggregate limit as well. I popped in the policy and document number here. I put in the coverage value. I do ask, as somebody who goes in and approves these, if you can please put in the commas in your dollar amounts. It makes them a lot easier to read as you're going through and approving and making sure that people have the correct amounts. Sometimes the zeros all kind of merge into one. Does this item have an expiry date? Yes. The answer to that question for all of our insurance items will always be yes, regardless of if it is a letter that you're uploading for work cover to say that you don't require it. We still ask that you pop an expiry date on there of 30th of June, whatever the next financial year end coming up is, purely just so that if there has been any changes in your organisation within that time, it will prompt you to then either just re-upload the letter that you already had, or you can upload the certificate of currency that has now been issued to you, who the insurance was issued by, and then you can pop in any comments here that you feel necessary. Bear in mind, this then becomes visible on your profile. An instance in when you would use the comments would be if you are part of an organisation that sits under an umbrella. So for example, Local Buy sits under the LGAQ. So our insurances are regularly issued to LGAQ. So we would pop in here, and it also works for people who have work cover and a payroll company that has the work cover insurance. You would pop in a note there just explaining the relationship and giving a little bit of information as to why the name listed on the insurance document doesn't actually match your business profile. So, for example, if that was me, I could pop in that LGAQ holds our work cover insurance and all Local Buy employees are included in this cover. And it just gives the person approving it a little bit more information and saves us having to decline it and come back to you to ask for more info. All right, so I'm going to hit continue. Hopefully it hasn't timed me out. And it also pops in here again, important information about what the minimum requirements are. I'm just going to go back into that and see if that has... No, that has not linked for me. Bear with me, please, guys. I'm just going to pop... I was trying to be helpful this morning so you didn't have to sit through that, but it has not played the game. All right, so now I'm going to upload my certificate. And that it will show down here that it is linked. So you can see here, this is turned green. It says linked items, professional indemnity, and it is now pending approval. So if I head back to this preview screen here, you'll see here that it's pending approval. So there are ways that you can go back and just double check that it has actually done what you've asked it to do. Ooh. All right. We're also going to go in and update our rate cards. So if you have during the tender process, you had to complete a pricing schedule, this won't really relate to you because you've already done that on the Excel version. We'll then take that and upload that onto your profile. For the arrangements that do have a rate card, it sits here under the supplier list you manage. So this is telling me that I haven't completed this rate card yet. So you've got a couple of different options when you go in. There's a little bit of a blurb here just explaining the basis of the rate cards to you. It's telling you that the pricing is fixed for a minimum of 3 months. You need to complete it for any relevant categories that you're appointed to. The prices need to be quoted in the exclusive GST dollar amounts, and the pricing is the maximum rate that you may charge your purchaser. So that's not to say that you can't come in and decide, put it at say $1,000 a day, but when the quote comes through, you can then you can respond to the quote at $900 a day if you wish. The rate card is purely just the maximum amount that you can charge for that particular service.
And Sarah, I think it's important for suppliers to understand that sometimes procurement teams will check your rate card. So when you're responding to quotes, I know I have a council in North Queensland. When a quote comes through and a purchase order is requested to be raised, they will actually go into vendor panel and check that that supplier is not charging more than what they've actually put on their rate card. So it's very important.
And these bottom 3 sentences are also very important. So just remember that purchases may require pricing for additional cost items, including but not limited to travel costs, out of hours penalties, call out costs, any other miscellaneous fees and charges. These aren't required to be on the schedule. What I generally recommend to people when we go through to fill out the file, you'll notice there's an additional comments box on the end. You can pop a little note in there to say, price may vary depending on travel, etc., etc. So you've got 2 different options that you can do when completing your rate card. You can do an import export. So this will download a CSV file for you. I recommend doing this if you have multiple, say more than 5 or 10 lines that you wish to fill in on the rate card. So 5 or 10 different positions or people or levels of service that you provide. If you've only got a couple, we're going to pretend that I'm a sole trader and it's just me that does my strategic asset management. I will come down here to enter rate card data. This effective dates is the same regardless of whether you do the import export or the enter rate card data. So I'm a little bit fussy with my pricing. I don't want to leave it for a whole 12 months. It's December, so I'm going to plan to update my pricing in March, just in case something happens over the new year and I decide to increase my prices. That's not to say if come the 2nd of March, I decide, you know what, I'm going to keep the pricing as it is. I can just submit the same values. There doesn't have to be a change to your rates just because your effective dates have come to the end. All right, I'm going to add a new item here. So similar to the compliances, it just pops up with a little window here. I'm going to be an administrator. You can pop in a little bit of a description of what that service actually provides. I'm going to do my standard hourly rate and just make this up as I go. Let's go $10,000 a week because, I do a great job. I can pop in here whether I would like to offer a percentage discount for local buy purchases. This is 100% optional. You do not have to provide this. If you wish to, great. If you don't, you can just pop a not applicable. And then we've got the discounted hourly rate. So if you do provide a percentage discount, you don't need to do both sections of the rate card. You can either pop in here that you're going to provide a 10% discount, or you can actually go through and list the discounted hourly rates based on that 10% discount. You don't have to do both sections. It's entirely up to you how you wish to do it. And down here in comments, additional costs for travel may be applied as, apologies, my spelling is terrible this morning, as necessary. So I'm just going to hit save because administration is the only service that I provide. I'm now going to submit my rate card for approval. I can at any point while it's sitting here, I can preview it just to check that I've filled out all the bits that I need to. It makes sense. It looks like it should. The only thing I will add is if you are doing the import export, when you export the initial file, it does come with an example row as the first row. Please remove that because if you do send it through on the rate card for approval, we will decline you and ask you to jump back in and amend and resubmit. So I'm going to submit my rate card for approval. That will then go through to the category manager. So they'll go in, have a look, just make sure that you've submitted pricing for categories or services that you are actually appointed to the arrangement to provide. So, for example, if I was on asset management for strategic asset, I think it's on strategic asset management is one of the categories I've appointed myself to for the purpose of this. If I was to then pop in a whole bunch of rate information for one of the other categories that I'm not actually appointed to, the category manager may review that and go back in and decline it and ask me to take those off because I'm not actually approved to provide those services under this arrangement. So from here, I can also edit the rate card. If I hit submit and realize that I've made a mistake, I can edit the rate card and resubmit that for approval again. And once again, that now sits here under the required rate cards. It sits as managed because it's no longer required. I've completed that process. The required compliances is still sitting as update because we've only done one for the purpose of this example. So it sits there as a red update box until all 3 items are completed.
Sarah, what happens when a rate card is submitted into the portal? What's the process that happens behind the scenes?
Through vendor panel.
How does it get approved?
Yep, so it goes through to the category manager. I believe they might, I'm not sure if they receive an email to say that a rate card is there for approval, or it's just when they go into the vendor panel system, they can view any rate cards that have come through. So they will come through, they will review it. If they're happy with everything that's been entered, the dates are correct, they can, if it's updating a rate card from a previous one that has expired, they can actually view any differences any updates that you've made, so they can see it gives them the option to compare it to the last version. So they can go in and go, okay, this was their last lot of pricing. They've come in and they put everything up 5%. That's great, all good, still all the same categories. They will then approve that rate card, and there's a little box that they can tick that asks it to show on your profile.
Excellent. So every single one, it's not an AI process, it doesn't go through some fancy system. Literally a human being is reviewing what you've put in there and actually approving each and every one.
And once it's approved, it will come in and it will sit here under just above your compliances. You will see, to be honest, I'm not sure if it sits just above or just below, but it will show on your profile once it's been approved. It will sit as an item here on
it's
your
just
profile.
Above. It's where attachments
it's just above?
are. Yeah.
Awesome. And that's also where your pricing schedule, the Excel version that you may complete depending on your arrangement, that's where that sits when it's uploaded as well. Alrighties. So we've done rate cards. Obviously, you can, as an administrator, I can add colleagues. We've been through that. We've done our logo. We've previewed, and that's pretty much.
I have a little
here we go.
question.
Here is where you see your list documents, which I think, because I'm not approved on the arrangement, I don't think I can see the documents attached to the arrangement at this point.
We did have a question, Sarah, about where we go in vendor panel to update our business description.
Yep. So just up here in this little, I'm going to call him the little blue man, there is the business profile. So here, that's where you can update your ABN if you need to, if you do make a change. Just bear in mind, we prefer you to contact us first if you're changing your ABN. We do receive a notification if you change your ABN without letting us know. And you do run the risk of your profile being made inactive while we investigate and find out what the issue is. So you can see here where I've got business entity, business name, that is what's shown to buyers. And then in here, you've got your description. So I think you have around a 4,000 character limit to put in any information that you wish about your business. If you have capability statements, anything like that, you can forward those through to the contracts at Local by email, and we can upload those onto your profile for you. Unfortunately, vendor panel doesn't give you the ability to add those attachments yourself, but you can send them through to either the contracts email or your category manager, and we can pop those on your profile for you. Let's go back. So you can see here under the critical tasks, it's now removed my update rate card because I've done that. It's just showing that I have the compliance details to do. If you're not the administrator, the critical tasks won't show for you. That's something that has to be done by the administrator. And I think that's pretty much it for vendor panel. I will quickly show you as the administrator. Obviously, I have none yet because I'm not approved on the panel yet. But once you've started responding to requests for quote from buyers, they will sit here under my responses, and you can go into here. It's going to show us nothing because I have none, but it will show you a breakdown of all of the responses that you've responded to. And I believe it also will show you whether the buyer has finalized them and the outcome.
I'm going to interject while you whip across into the reporting portal, Sarah, on this one. So in terms of those requests for quote that come through vendor panel, as I said before, each one of those is a business opportunity. Vendor panel also, and Sarah didn't have it set up because she hasn't been approved on her fake account as yet, but it does give you an opportunity to respond to the buyer. So to the council person, to let them know I am declining this request for quote. It's not in my wheelhouse. I'm too busy. I'm under resourced. I'm not going to play in this particular project this time. Not interested. And so that's great feedback for the council to know that your company is not going to respond to that particular quote. It gives you an opportunity also to say, I intend to respond, which is awesome because then council can know that it's really likely that they are going to get a response from your business. So that's really something that we do encourage you to do. When you're declining those quotes, you can give council a reason. The specification was terrible. The timescale was way too short. I can't possibly build a bridge in 2 weeks. Whatever it may be, I'm being slightly facetious here, but do give that feedback to the council so they know why you're not interested. If they put a request for quote out and it's meant to be out for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they've sent it to 3 or 4 suppliers, which they can 100% do when they're utilising local buy to procure, and everyone has declined within a week, council know they have a problem, not having to wait till the end of that RFQ process and no one's responded because there's something not quite right with that particular request for quote. So please do use those tools within vendor panel to let your buyers know if you're intending to respond or declining to respond. Over to you, Sarah.
Alrighty, so next up we have the supplier portal. I do apologize, I have skipped the login page. It's very straightforward. There's an email, username box, and a password. If you don't have access to the supplier portal, please let us know. You will be on your first initial login. You will need to go through the forgot your password process to set up a password. But if you need access, please email support@localbuy and we will get you sorted. But this is the home screen once you are in. It will always default to the current reporting period and the reporting window. So you've got a little bit of information up the top here. You've got your supplier name, your supplier verification certificate number, how long you've been with local buy. I do apologize, I rushed this in the test and put it 2000. I did fix it for 2001, but it hasn't updated. And it will give you an idea of your total sales year to date based on what you've reported to us. So as you go through the year, you will see obviously this year to date total sales will increase as you complete your reporting each month. It just gives you a little bit of a rundown of what you can view and access in the portal. But the most important part is this little box right down here. So this is your supplier reporting. Each month you will see a return pop up for each and every arrangement you are appointed to. If you are on 7 arrangements, there will be 7 arrangements listed here for you to complete. You've got a couple of different options in how you do it. One thing I will flag, and please bear in mind, you'll notice each month it will have 05 for November, 06 for December. This is purely just a numbering system for us, so that in the back end of the system, we can keep the financial years and the returns all in a reasonable order and easy to follow. Please disregard the number at the start of the month. That is purely just numbering. So this is the reporting for November 2025. It is due on the 21st of December. It is currently outstanding. It will sit on this front page until we have closed the reporting at the end of the reporting period, which means if you have completed your reporting, once you've submitted, whether it's spend or a nil, this status will change to complete. So if you log into the portal and you see status complete, that means your reporting's been done. You don't need to do anything else. While it is sitting on this front screen though, you can edit or make any changes to the return that you have submitted. So if I was to submit nil today, I then get an email from my project manager in a couple of days to go, oh, hey, just an FYI, I did some work for City of Gold Coast under the local buy arrangement that's just been invoiced for last month. Can you please make sure that goes into the reporting portal? I can then come in here and go, okay, cool, I've already done it, but whatever, I'll fix that up. I can come in here, I can click on the arrangement number, and I can go in and I can submit that return. Once this status has changed to closed or invoiced, you then need to contact local buy, because that means we've started our processing at our end, and we can still make a change to the reporting if necessary. It's just a little bit more of a process involved. So what we're going to do a couple of different things here. First off, I'm going to submit nil. So I've had no work for this arrangement for this month, nothing to report. Submit nil. Okay, done. Confirmation nil return has been submitted. I hit OK. It's actually working quite quickly today. Sometimes it will take a couple of minutes for that status to update. It will really just depends on the traffic in the website and your internet speed. It's playing the game for us today, so that is lovely. So that will sit there as complete until the end of the month. Now, a couple of days have gone past. I have reports to enter for this arrangement. So I'm going to go into view details, and we get to this screen. So this is the same as what you would get if I hadn't submitted nil and you were just going in to submit a return. So we have a save PO number and a purchase order number box here. Very important. That is the purchase order number if you require a purchase order number on your invoice from local buy to yourself. You don't need to pop in here the purchase order number between you and your purchaser. This is purely just if you require local buy to have a purchase order on their invoice to you. So it gives you the same details again. It tells you the arrangement number, name, the reporting period that we're reporting for, and the due date. So I'm going to add a purchaser. You can also, if you are doing a lot of continuous work for the same purchaser, it will pop up here in your add recent purchases. So I'm going to see who I've previously done some work for under this account. So I've done some work for City of Moreton Bay and Western Downs Regional Council according to our testing account. So if I can just go into this add purchaser, click select, that pops them into the window here. If I have a new purchaser that I haven't previously reported for, I can go purchaser, hit the little magnifying glass. Now, something that's very important to remember in here is Microsoft doesn't like any of us and likes to make things difficult. So the way the searches are set up, if I was to search for Ipswich, I can just type in Ipswich and it will pop up and give me a whole bunch of options of either companies, purchases that have Ipswich in the name or Ipswich in the location. However, if I want to search for City of Moreton Bay, because City of Moreton Bay isn't located in a location called Moreton, it doesn't actually pop up. So what you need to do is if you just put a little asterisk at the start of the name, hit search, it will then bring up anything that potentially has Moreton within the name. The asterisk acts as a wildcard. So if you were to put an asterisk either side, it will bring up anything that has Moreton anywhere within the name. So that's just something to bear in mind if you're doing your reporting and you can't find a purchaser, just pop in the asterisk and see if that helps. If that doesn't and you've tried all other options and still can't find the purchaser, please just reach out because it could be that it's a purchaser that hasn't previously utilized local buy before and we may need to set them up in the system. But I'm going to just select City of Moreton Bay for this one, and I'm going to pretend.
And as we know, Sarah, it's sometimes City of Moreton Bay does confuse people because
that's why I thought I'd use that as an example.
Yeah, they're trying to, or they've spelt Moreton wrong. They've missed the E out.
That is
so
also
that
a
has.
good one.
Oh, I've had that problem before in the past as well. So good work on using that example.
Microsoft likes to remind us that spelling is very important. Now, you'll see in here while you're creating your return, you have your purchaser with a little red asterisk and your revenue excluding GST as a little red asterisk. That is because at a bare minimum, they are the two fields that we need completed. We need to know the name of the purchaser and how much you invoice them for the month. If you have the information required for the bottom three fields, great. Pop it in. It helps us when we go to audit later on, and it helps us if you come back to us and go, oh, I did a return for the Moreton Bay grass to surface conversion project. But if you haven't put that in the project name, we can't actually then look that up for you. So any additional information you can give us, fantastic, but don't stress if you don't have that information. Bare minimum, we just need the purchaser and the revenue. So I'm going to hit add purchaser. This will then update into the screen here. It will show me that I've popped something in the project name, the revenue that I've included, and it will also calculate the contract management fee for me. If I have multiple returns that I need to then enter, let's go local government finance professionals, because it's on the top of the list. It will give you a running total of what you can expect your contract management fee from invoice from local buyer to be, so that you're not entering reporting and then getting a shock a month, 2 months later when you receive the invoice. We've kept all of that information in here for you so you can see that right from the get-go. It also means if your system, you need that value to then be able to create the purchase order, you can then take that, create the purchase. I'm going to hit submit for the purpose of this example. It'll take a couple of minutes to update here. You can then take that contract management fee value number, go back into your system, create your purchase order number, and then you can jump back in here, pop in your purchase order number, save PO. You don't need to resubmit because that's all you're changing. And you can jump back in here and it's popped the purchase order number in there for you. So we've tried to make that process as easy as we possibly can for you. Another option we have on the front screen here is, and this is usually going to be better for the people that have multiple arrangements, or if you're a little bit behind on your reporting, if I was to jump in January and see that I have 4 months of reporting here that hasn't been completed by my person that does the reporting, I can then export this view. So I can hit export current view. It will send me an Excel sheet with exactly what you see here, especially the status showing as outstanding. I can then email that to Emma and be like, hey Emma, how come the local buy reporting hasn't been done for these months? Can you please jump in and do it? So you have that option as well. We also have in this system your supplier details. So we've got account name, ABN, phone number, email, address information. Where it's got the to be approved, so this is where we were saying before to let us know, one of the options where you can let us know if you're changing your ABN. You can come into the supplier portal here and update if you're wanting to change your name and your ABN. We'll then receive a notification and we can follow that up with you. The more notice you can give us in these situations, the better, because you do run the risk of, especially if the old ABN is no longer trading, you run the risk of being made inactive on the vendor panel platform while we get all that sorted out for you. We also have the contacts down here. So we have Emma is one of our contacts. She doesn't have any local buy role at this point for the company, how we've got her set up. And the finance team, they're our reporting contact. So you can add additional contacts, but you'll notice in the note down here, please bear in mind, we can only have one email address linked to a person at a time within your organization. So I can't then create a new contact with Sarah McCracken and the email of emma@localbuy.net.au. Just for clarity, that's not Emma's actual email. Please don't copy that down and try and email her. It won't work. So we can't have, the system won't allow us to have the same email address linked to multiple contacts. So we can have Emma Peters set up in here 4 different times with 4 different email addresses, not a problem at all. So we do recommend for at least either your primary contact or your reporting contact, having that as a generic email. So an admin at, accounts at, finance at. That way, if I move on, but my name is linked to an accounts email, the person who comes in my position is then already, the system's there, it's already ready to go. They just need to jump in and change passwords and reset the access.
But Sarah, if suppliers have questions or need to add additional people, or those reporting contacts need to change, what's the best method for them to let us know?
Yep. So once again, if you have access to the supplier portal, you can just jump in here into the support screen and you can log a support inquiry. So hopefully that's going to open up for us. So in here, we've got a few different options. We've got reporting, invoice, arrangement, or general query. a little bit of a description about what you need us to do, pop in your email address, and then just a rundown of what you need. So can you please remove these 5 contacts and replace them with these 5 contacts? Can you please change our VP administrator over to this person? If you can, as long as you can give us the name and the email address of the person you're wanting to change it to, we can do everything else for you at this end. But the more info you can give us, the better. And that's across the board with any of our support tickets. If you have a reporting query where you've got a credit that you need to issue, pop in the details. You can attach a copy of the credit note if you need to. If you need to query what's on the invoice, that one you can pop in a request, but what I would recommend first is just having a look in your past reports. So here is one I've prepared earlier. So I have submitted a return for July for asset management, and I can actually go in and have a look at what that return entailed. So when I received my local by LB 1234568 invoice number that gets emailed to me, I can go, oh, what's this invoice for? I don't understand. I can go in and review what the contract management fee was actually, what was reported and what that calculated to make sure there's been no errors at either end. And same thing again, these are all exported. All of these views are exportable. So we do have FY23, FY24, FY25, and 26 for those of us that have been here for a while. I'm not going to go into each tab because I haven't got anything set up for the attest account, but it will then show you each of the monthly returns that you've submitted for each arrangement over that particular period. We also have in here your awarded work. So this is, like I said before, very specifically, this is work that has been awarded through the vendor panel platform. This does not include work that has been awarded to you directly via the contact at council. This is only the stuff in here that has been done through the vendor panel system.
And I think it's important to note, Sarah, at this point in time that not all work, not every time you're being engaged through a local by pre-qualified supplier arrangement is necessarily going to be through the vendor panel system. We do have 40,000 people that work in local government here in Queensland alone, and some of them like to do business via email or on the telephone. If you are not sure if a council is engaging you through a local by pre-qualified supplier arrangement, do not be afraid to ask. It's really important. Am I being engaged through local buy for this particular project? So please do reach out and ask. And also make sure that you have a system to track that spend if it's not coming through vendor panel. Lots of councils do use vendor panel, and it makes life super easy for you because you can see awarded work through vendor panel. But don't forget, you may be being engaged outside of vendor panel, and it is your responsibility as a supplier to track that work and make sure that you are recording it.
All right, so while we're in here, you can see I've just got the one drop here. So any work that you've been awarded will sit here under the financial year it was awarded in. And you can also pop in any additional notes or comments that you might like us to know. So I can go into the project status and go, you know what, this one was actually cancelled. Work cancelled by buyer, so that when we're doing our audit processes, we can actually go in and go, oh, okay, these guys are actually like, we don't need to chase you up to be like, hey, how come you haven't reported this work yet? We can go in and go, oh, okay, so this was actually cancelled. This work is null and void. We don't actually need to chase the supplier for that to make sure they're doing the right thing. You will also notice any of the pages have a log a support query button at the bottom. That will take you to the support page if you've got any questions. And then we just have the arrangement details. So this shows the arrangements that you are currently appointed to, the category name, the arrangement number, arrangement name, your category manager. It gives you the current expiry date of the arrangement, and like I mentioned before, the outstanding critical tasks. So as you can see, I have required compliances outstanding on my vendor panel, and I have outstanding and critical tasks of expired compliances here. So we've tried to incorporate that into the supplier portal so that you might, as the reporting contact who jumps in and does the reporting, you might not actually be on the vendor panel system, but you can look at here and go, oh, hang on, something's expired. I need to let whoever the administrator for vendor panel is know they need to jump in and fix that up. And I think that's it for me. If anyone.
We do have a host of questions,
Glorious.
so I'm going to take control.
I will stop sharing.
And you stop sharing, and we're going to go back to our slides. Bear with me one moment. We have a couple more slides to go through, and then we're going to jump into live Q&A because there are lots of questions there and some really good ones that I would like to answer live. So let's have a wee chat. We're going to go away from systems and portals and things like that now, and we're going to talk a little bit about marketing. As we said before, we have 4,889 to be exact as of yesterday afternoon, suppliers pre-qualified across 50 different arrangements. Local buy has to be supplier agnostic. We love you all equally, and we cannot promote any one supplier over another. So there is an onus on you as a local buy pre-qualified supplier to make sure that councils who you want to do business with know that they can engage you through local buy. So the few things that you can do to promote your local buy pre-qualified status. First of all, get to know the councils you want to do business with. Follow them on social media. Review the council minutes. Now, I always think this is the best tip anyone ever gave me, is so much great information is included in council minutes. Council meetings take place once a month, and all the key players in the council, the directors, the works director, the CEO, the corporate services director, is often named in those. If you're looking for council contacts or information about a council, review the council minutes. They're all published on the council's websites. Keep your vendor panel profile up to date. We've spoken about this before. Sarah showed you how to go in and keep that information up to date, including your compliances. Develop and build relationships with the people in council that you would like to do business with. Attend industry events. We're going to talk a little bit about what local buy does to promote itself within the local government industry in just a moment, but you can attend industry events as well. Councils using their social media have lots of different events going on. Councils run supplier engagement events. Do get out there and have a look at what's going on in your particular industry. Lots of different conferences, local government finance professionals, the Institute of Public Works engineers, workplace health and safety conferences. There's lots going on in local government. Get involved in the community. Consider sponsoring the local footy team. We do have suppliers that do that, and it's a really great way of building those relationships. Target neighbour councils. Don't just think about the little council that you may sit in. There could be neighbour councils that you can do business with as well. Now, I am very aware that we've only got 5 minutes left in our meeting. If we do go over a little bit, the recording, of course, will be sent out to everybody after the meeting. Now, suppliers, when you become a local buy supplier, you are agreeing to abide by the supplier code of conduct, which a little brief synopsis on this particular slide. Now, what do we do to promote local buy? Well, first of all, we love social media. So we have a really big LinkedIn account. So please do feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. My name is Emma Peters and I'm the head of engagement for Local Buy. We post lots of information about what's going on, what Local Buy are doing on LinkedIn, and please do follow us. It includes information about our events as well. We have a monthly newsletter, and that newsletter goes out to over 20,000 contacts every single month. There is an opportunity for suppliers to do a little bit of a story in the newsletter. It's called My Local Buy Story. We want to hear from you if you've done a great project through a local buy pre-qualified supplier arrangement with a council. We're regularly communicating with council staff. The engagement team have is made up of 4 people, including myself. We each have a portfolio of councils that we look after, and we're consistently out there meeting with councils and promoting the use of local buy. You get a supplier verification certificate to prove you're a local buy pre-qualified supplier. We put on webinars like this and tutorials on trying to assist our suppliers win more work through local buy. It's easier for the council and it's easier for you to do business using a local buy pre-qualified supplier arrangement. We have our own conferences and summits, face-to-face events throughout the year. All of this information is available through the events on our local buy website, which is www.localbuy.net.au. So don't forget a couple of things before we actually dive into our Q&A. There were some awesome questions in there, so I'd love to do some live. So Sarah, get yourself ready because there's definitely some questions coming your way. Things to remember, quick synopsis. If it's not clear if you're being engaged through local buy, ask the person who's procuring the goods or services from you if it's not coming through vendor panel. Check your vendor panel profiles up to date. Create an internal system to track local buy spend. Make sure you're adding colleagues to vendor panel, especially if you've got branches outside of head office. Notify us if anything changes at all, and make sure you're going in and doing your monthly reporting in a timely manner. Erin sends out 3 emails. First, it goes out on the 1st of the month to say reporting is open. Then she does another one mid-month to say your reporting hasn't been submitted yet, and that only goes to those people who haven't done their reporting. And then another one comes out on the 21st of the month to say it's overdue. And then if you're really lucky or naughty and you haven't done your reporting, I start chasing the suppliers to encourage them to get their reporting done in a timely manner. Now, that could be an email or a text message from me encouraging you to pop in and do it. And read and understand the local buy code of conduct. Now, when we go into Q&A, I'm going to click onto this slide here, which is feedback. We love a bit of feedback here at Local Buy. What could we do better? What did you like about the webinar? That will enable us to have feedback from our suppliers who are super, super important to us to make sure that we're giving you all of the information that you need in the future. Okay, we've got 1 minute left and this is going to take longer. But we're going to whip through these questions for you now. Sarah, here's the first question for you. Where would a supplier find their local buy verification certificate?
So if you haven't received a copy of your certificate yet, you just need to either email or log a support inquiry just asking for a copy. We will send you out a PDF version with all of the relevant details on it.
Yep. And when you say a support inquiry, is there a particular email address if someone wanted to send an email? Is that inquiries or?
We've got a couple of different options, but the easiest one is probably either contracts@localbuy.net.au or the inquiry at localbuy.net.au.
Excellent. There's quite a few people, suppliers asking where they can find their verification certificate. So, yeah, feel free to reach out to us, let us know, and we can send you a copy.
We can flick you a copy.
Yep. There's also one here, Sybil is asking, is there an additional requirement to be able to get the approved supplier badge? No. If you are a local buy pre-qualified supplier, we would love you to use the badging. It's another thing we really encourage you to do. Put the local buy logo on the bottom of your email signature. And then if you're doing business with the council and having a chat with them, they can see you're a local buy pre-qualified supplier. We will, when we send out these resources, put a link to our supplier resources page where you can download those logos.
And I believe the little badge on vendor panel, it can, if you've only just recently been appointed, it's not updated instantly. So it is only updated on a, I think, weekly basis. So it may take a couple of days for it to pop up.
Someone is asking about doing a LinkedIn advert saying you're a local by pre-qualified supplier. Yes, please do. And our marketing team or I sometimes jump in and actually post, woohoo, great to have you on board, can't wait to work with you. And then that means that goes out through our large network of contacts too. So yes, feel free to do LinkedIn posts. We love seeing them when suppliers are appointed to make sure that you're promoting that. So Chris is asking how he gets access to the local buy supplier portal for reporting. And I know, Sarah, that they don't, it depends on when they're actually appointed as to when their reporting month will first kick in. Did you want to explain that in a little bit more detail?
So obviously we don't expect that the second you receive your appointment notification that you are completing work that day and will have something to report in the next month that pops up. So we do try and kind of hold it back for a month or so just to get you all set up in the system, and then you will get your initial appointment reporting reminder. We do base the reporting contact on what is entered when you tender. So when you are completing the tender, you have the option to complete your vendor panel contact, the tender contact, and the reporting contact. So if you're not receiving the email, that means you weren't listed in those options. And it is just a matter of just getting in touch with us and letting us know that you would like to be the reporting contact for that particular arrangement for that organisation, and we'll get you set up.
And don't worry, Erin is all over it. She will not forget you. When it is time for you to do reporting, we
We will
will
find you.
most definitely let you know, won't we, Erin? You can just nod.
And all the login instructions are in the reporting emails.
Yes, that's a good thing to note. When that email does come out, you can just press on the link, can't they, Erin? And that will take them straight into the reporting portal.
Yeah, and you'll just need to use the forgot your password function to set a password on the first login.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Kim has asked if there will be a recording. Yes, Kim, we will send out a recording with the slides later this week. Now, Jeremy has 3 questions. I'm going to take some of them and I'm going to throw one to Sarah. So Jeremy would like to know how non-conformances in the pre-qualifications are dealt with by buyers. So I think Jeremy means if he has compliance documentation outstanding, will he still get a request for quote? So, well, that really depends on how much due diligence the council are doing. It is highly recommended that local buy suppliers have all their compliance documentation current and up to date. I used to work in procurement in a council, and I would question if I had lots of other suppliers to invite and I had suppliers with no compliance documentation there, they're all expired documents or there's none there at all, I may choose to leave that supplier out from this particular request for quote. So don't do that to yourself. Try to make sure that those compliance documentation is up to date. They can engage you. They can still send you a request for quote. By the time the quote has closed and they're ready to award, you may have updated those documents. But it could be, it's down to the individual buyer if they're prepared to invite to quote for someone who isn't currently compliant. He also asks how a supplier is selected to receive requests for tender or requests for quote. 2 very different things. A request for tender will go out in the most case through vendor panel, but it goes out to non-pre-qualified suppliers in what vendor panel calls the public marketplace. It's just a business directory. If it's a request for quote through a local buy pre-qualified supplier arrangement, it's a closed quotation. So you may be, and this does happen sometimes, the only organisation invited to quote. You won't know that, but the council may sometimes choose 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 suppliers to request for quote rather than a full and open tender, which is open to anyone to respond, which means it's you have a competitive advantage if you're being engaged through a local buy pre-qualified supplier arrangement. And this is And then Jeremy's third question is about hourly, daily, and weekly rates are not mathematically related, e.g., an hourly rate is not the same as a day rate. Is this standard practice or is it not well received by buyers? Sarah?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I haven't had a huge amount of feedback from buyers about the breakdown of the rates, but it's a good question. We could probably throw that out next time we have a buyer session.
Yeah, I think you could. I think it's just important to note in there that most organisations, I know Local Buy operates on 7.6 hours a day, and most organisations do as well. So if they have any queries or questions, though, the buyers can definitely reach out to get you to confirm. Annette asked what the percentage was, the contract management fee. Now, contract management fees vary arrangement to arrangement. The average across our 55 arrangements is 1%, but they do vary from 1% to 2%. It will show on your general conditions of contract in Schedule A how much the percentage is for the particular arrangement that you're on. Rebecca's asked about the difference between tenders on current requests and open public tenders. I think I've explained that already. So tenders is a full and open tender process. Anyone can respond. If it's coming through a Local Buy pre-qualified supplier arrangement, it will say on the front of your request for quote, and it's a closed quotation. It's not a full and open tender. Here's one for you, Sarah. Annette has to upload certificates of registration and she has over 20 of them to upload. Is there a way for her to do a bulk upload?
Unfortunately not. That would be the dream, to be able to just have one profile that then links to all of the different arrangements. But unfortunately, the way the vendor panel system is set up is it's set up on an arrangement basis. So you do unfortunately have to do it every time.
So sorry about that.
I've tried. They said no. Sorry.
Sorry about that, Annette. We would love to do lots of things in a more streamlined manner, but unfortunately, some things do have to be individually done. So sorry about that. Another question here, does not saying your annual revenue disadvantage you in any way? Well, I have an opinion on that. If probably yes and no. If I was a council procurement officer, and sometimes we do need to put ourselves in the shoes of a council procurement officer, and I was going out to engage a company to build a big bridge, and it was a $5 million job, and you had no annual revenue on your business profile, I may consider whether I would invite you. Having that annual revenue on your business profile gives the council an understanding of the scale of your business. And, you know, if you're turning over $100 or $1 billion a year, then yes, you are probably financially capable of performing a multi-million-dollar job. So yeah, put yourself in the procurement officer's shoes when you're thinking about whether you want to include that on there on your business profile. I'm just having a quick look. We've gone through all of these. Okay, we're going to pop back up to the top. We have a couple more. Sarah, here's one for you. Someone's asking about the discount for Local Buy purchases. Do most businesses include a discount or not?
I think the ones that I've viewed, a majority of them do. Like I said, it's optional. You don't have to, but a lot of them do.
And Sandra's asking, on one of my vendor panel lists, your organisation is pending approval or activation by the list administrator. So as we were saying about the rate cards, when you actually get turned on for the first time in vendor panel, it's a human being that has to check off all of your compliance documentation is there. We have just finished our November round of appointments. We go to market once a quarter to bring on new suppliers. So yes, that it could be that we're waiting for one of our team to actually go in and tick the box to say, yes, you're all good to go and you can be appointed, or have you paid your supplier verification fee? Sarah, you look like you want to interject to me at this point.
No, I was just going to say, just going on that it is a person that actually does it, and there are a few things that we do need to switch on in the background. So we need to make sure that we've got your categories selected correctly, the service and office locations that you responded in the tender that you service. Those have to all be, much like Annette with her insurances, they all actually have to be individually added to each supplier profile. So unfortunately, it does take a little bit of time to get all that up to date. So if it feels like you've been waiting for quite a lot of time and you think you've done everything at your end, just flick us a quick email just to check in and let us know, because it could be that you might be the next one that we're going to, or it could be that you've paid your invoice a couple of days earlier and we just haven't gotten that information updated yet. So it could be that we think we're still waiting on something that has actually been completed.
Excellent, thank you. Aaron is asking, applying for a local buy account, can we use an ABN with 17 different branches across the state? Yes. If that all operate underneath the one ABN, you can have 17 different colleagues in vendor panel underneath that one particular account. We have, for example, a very large hardware company who has multiple branches that you can quite often get a mid-morning snack on a Saturday morning at, and they have lots of different branches operating under one ABN. So you just can have colleagues in there from each one of those particular branches, which is exactly what we recommend that you do in that particular situation. And I think we've come to the end of our questions. If anyone has any other queries, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. The reason that we put on webinars like this is because we want to make sure that if you have queries or questions, they are getting answered. We are here to help, and we love to hear from you. So I'm hoping when I go in and have a look at LinkedIn in just a moment when we finish this webinar, I've got 200 extra connections in LinkedIn that we can start promoting the fact that you are a local buy pre-qualified supplier through those social media areas. And Sarah and Erin, thank you very much for your assistance. For anyone that we didn't get specifically to your question, please don't hesitate to log a support request. Send us an email to inquiries@localbuy.net.au. Just reach out to us. We're more than happy to help. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for joining us this morning. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you very much. And thank you to my colleagues for co-hosting with me today. Thank you, everybody.